let's talk about two lovely, joyous characters in Roy Cohn and Donald Trump.
So this is directed by Ali Abbasi, who's an Iranian-Danish filmmaker who's credited. It worked on The Last of Us, but also made the Holy Spider, which is a really, really good film. We reviewed it here on the show. Written by Gabriel Sherman, who's a journalist and author who wrote a biography of Roger Ailes, which was then turned into a miniseries. So the story follows Donald Trump, played by Sebastian Stan, who's also in the current release A Different Man, from the early 70s, desperate to build Trump Tower, but along with his father, mired in a federal investigation about discrimination, that they won't rent their properties to black people. He then meets lawyer and prosecutor Roy Cohn, played by Jeremy Strong, who many people will know, from Succession, who prides himself on being the person who sent the Rosenbergs to the electric chair, who believes that all morality is bunk, and who calls himself a patriot who will break any rules for his country. Here's a clip of the two of them in the back of a very expensive car.
Listen, Judy, about 100 reporters were crawling up my ass to get this interview, and I gave you the exclusive.
Yes, hello, Judy. This is Donald Trump. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Be excited. Donald, now that the lawsuit is behind you, what do you want to do next?
Well, I intend to acquire the Commodore, and I'm planning on making it the best and the finest building in the city, maybe the country, in the world. Judy, in the world, it's going to be the finest building in the world. It's going to be a spectacular hotel.
Basically what happens is that Roy Cohn takes Donald Trump under his wing and in the film wins the Trump case by essentially blackmailing the judge. And then throughout the drama, we see him using illegal, unethical means to get what he wants. And first, Trump is sort of scared of this, but soon gets the bug and then transforms basically into someone with an equally disdainful attitude toward the law. The writer of the film says, the inspiration for the movie came about thinking about the ghost of Roy Cohn inhabiting the body of Donald Trump. So on one level, it's a ghost story. It's about, it's called The Apprentice. It's about somebody who is, the underling who then becomes almost more admired, more talented, more skillful at that kind of amoral, illegal, corrupt way of life. He builds his tower. He starts to take slimming pills, which are basically speed. He starts to become the monstrous narcissistic bully that we're now faced with. He meets Ivana, played rather brilliantly by Maria Bakalova, who was Oscar nominated for Borat, subsequent movie film. If you remember, she was the person who was in that film when Rudy Giuliani was caught in compromising position. On Monday, Donald Trump truthed that it's a fake and classless movie, cheap and defamatory, a politically disgusting hatchet job put right out before the 2024 election. So sad that human scum like the people involved in this hopefully unsuccessful enterprise are allowed to say and do whatever they want in order to hurt a political movement which is far bigger than any of us. So blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. Wow. So one of the main problems that he seems to have is there is a scene in it in which Ivana calls Trump fat and balding, after which he rapes her. Trump truthed, that's how you call it. My former wife, Ivana, was a kind and wonderful person. I had a great relationship with her until the day she died. The writer of this pile of garbage, Gabe Sherman, a low-life and talentless hack who's long been widely discredited, knew that and chose to ignore it. Well, here's the thing. That scene is a toned-down version of a court deposition that Ivana gave under oath during the 1990 divorce proceedings. She did later recant, but not under oath. And as they said, you choose which of those statements you want to believe. Also, there are, of course, as everyone knows, numerous accusations of sexual assault by Trump. There's the Access Hollywood tape in which he talks about grabbing women by the pussy. In July 2023, Judge Kaplan clarified that the jury had found that Trump had raped E. Jean Carroll, according to the common definition of the word. And in August 2023, Kaplan dismissed a countersuit against that and wrote that Carroll's accusation of rape is substantially true, adding it accordingly is the truth as relevant here that Mr. Trump digitally raped Miss Carroll. So That's legal. He's also currently on bail awaiting sentencing after being found guilty of 34 felony counts by a jury of his peers. So he is a convicted felon and known sexual assaulter. Also, his former Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley, recently referred to him as fascist to the core and said no one has ever been as dangerous to this country. The reason I say all this is because the complaints that Trump has about the movie misrepresenting him, I'm sorry, they don't hold up legally. Legally, he is all of those things. Most of the rest of the film checks out as well. There are scenes of him having liposuction and scalp reduction, which has been described by the filmmaker as the Frankenstein scenes, the birth of the monster. His mentorship by and betrayal of Roy Cohn is well known. His sexual incontinence, his cheating, his bullying, his predation, his absolute lack of any form of morality. I think Sebastian Stan gets the change from rich kid chancer to slimy reptile well. He only really falls into the speech and mannerisms that we now know in the later stages. Maria Bakalova does a very good job of making Ivana a three-dimensional woman whom Trump comes to loathe because she's smarter than him and she tells him what to do. But the standout is Jeremy Strong, who is utterly magnetic as Roy Cohn. It's a vampiric performance. Starts out as the kind of embodiment of callous evil, but ends up actually sort of sympathetic and pitiable when placed next to his monstrous prodigy, who has absolutely outstripped him in terms of amorality. The reviews when the film played in, I think it was Cannes, were kind of lukewarm. It's better than those reviews suggest. It's created with an aesthetic that allows it to blend news footage from the time rather well with the drama. It reminded me a little bit of Pablo Larraín's Oscar-nominated No. Smart use of pop songs, Yes Sir, I Can Boogie, is now tainted for all eternity in the same way that Stuck in the Middle with You was tainted for all eternity by Reservoir Dogs. So I think it's a better film than I'd expected, with a fantastic performance by Jeremy Strong, and all of the complaints about it misrepresenting Trump are legally nonsense.
You know, that's really surprising. I wasn't sure which way that review was going to go, because I think in my head, very unfairly, I think I had, just from watching the trailer, I had the sort of sense that it might be a bit of a wiggy mess. But
No,
clearly it sounds
isn't.
like it hits on a lot of obviously very controversial points, but does it quite effectively.
Yes, I mean, I would argue not controversial. They're not controversial. We know these things.
Sure,
about
because I
Donald
mean,
Trump.
you pointedly never used the word allegedly in anything that you were listing there, because it's all been backed up legally. And it's when you hear it plainly spoken like that, it is incredibly shocking that someone with all of those things could do anything, like just get a normal job, let alone be the in heavy air quotes, the leader of the free world. I mean, it's bananas.
What a time to be alive.